Basically, this is about how Royal Enfield. This is about the customer service experience between two geographical locations, North America and India. A lot of people put reviews online only when they are miffed with a brand or a product or service, right? If they are unhappy, they put on bad reviews. Everybody gets supercharged when it's about that. But this is about that and how a brand won me back. And the brand in question out here is Royal Enfield. The story that I'm about to tell you is going to cover what the issue was, how the Indian customer service dealt with the issue versus how the North American customer service dealt with the issue, and what was my observation or speculation about why the different customer services from different geographical locations under the same brand treated the issue differently. So right off the bat, I'll tell you what the issue was. Basically, I got these motorcycle gloves from Royal Enfield in India. After getting the gloves, I came to Canada and I was super excited about trying the gloves out. Now, after riding on day one, by the end of the day, I noticed that the skin of the glove started peeling off. So the side skin of these gloves, they started peeling off. The whole touch sensitivity of the glove went away and the phone could no longer detect the gloves. But I was wondering, like, why did that happen? Did I scratch it somewhere and that's why the skin peeled off? So that was my thinking. That was my assumption, but it was not correct. What happened was when I was done with riding by day two, end of the day, I noticed that all the gloves started to fall apart, like on the rims, it started to fall apart. The stitching, the fabric started to tear off. At this point, I was wondering, like, is this the soap in the iPhone box issue that is happening with me? So while the brand name is Royal Enfield, but inside the gloves are substandard copied product. This was the whole issue. I thought that the money is gone because I was in Canada and bought the gloves in India, so there won't be any resolution. Still, what I thought was I'll reach out to Royal Enfield India and see how they can help me with resolution. So I reached out to the customer service address on the site. This was my format. I told them that, hey, big fan of the brand, and I got into motorcycling because of Royal Enfield, although I don't ride a Royal Enfield because of the kind of riding I do. And then I told them that this is the issue. I bought the product in India, got them to Canada. When I started riding, the gloves started falling apart, and I provided them with all the proof of purchase. And I asked them that, what resolution can they offer? Right. To which they replied that, hey, unfortunately, you're going through this. We're sorry for that. They wanted the gloves back to their warehouse so that they could do a QC. And at this point, I'm wondering, like, why are you doing QC after the product is sold? Isn't that a step that you should be doing before, right? But anyway, that's what my thought was, that they had to go through their process. And then if they find that the product was substandard for real, they would either offer me a refund or replacement or something like that. We did not talk about that, but that's what they said. And they sent me a link to the warranty claim form. I responded back asking that, hey, if I don't know if you noticed, but I bought the gloves in India, but now I'm in Canada. So will you be arranging for the shipping? So to this, they responded that no, we can't do that. No, the product has to be in the country. You have to be in the country, only then we can offer you some resolution after we find out that it was indeed the product that was faulty. So at this point, I lost hope and I have to live with it. And to which they said, yeah. But still, I sent them one last email asking that, hey, by the way, if in future I come to the country and I bring these gloves along, can I then send it back to you and you can do your QC and whatever process you want to, and then offer me a resolution? So to which they said that only if it is in a matter of 6 months after the purchase date, only then they will be able to offer me any kind of resolution. If it's beyond that date, they won't be. One thing I noticed was every time I would send them an email, there would be a different person responding to the email. So at this point, I'm wondering, is this the Russian doll of customer service in India? Like every time a different person responds to me. And even though I knew that I won't get any resolution from them, I just for shits and giggle started thinking that I should just continue responding to that so that every time a different person will respond to me. And by doing this, I'll get to know their whole customer service team. So this is what I was thinking. Anyway, I lost all hopes. I was like, okay, I'll have to live with this glove. And if interested, the model is Royal Enfield Bravado gloves. And these are made in Bangladesh. And these costed me around 6 to 7,000 Indian rupees. So yeah, that's what it was. I lost all hopes. But a week after, I had this idea that what if I contact Royal Enfield North America? Since I'm in North America, maybe they'll be able to take accountability and offer me some kind of resolution. That's what I did. I reached out to Royal Enfield North America and I told them the same script that, hey, big fan of the brand, got into motorcycling because of Royal Enfield, and there's the issue. To my surprise, they replied asking which country am I writing from, which was kind of odd because I told them that I'm from Canada and I told them Ontario. They responded by asking what's my glove size. I told them my glove size. They responded with a regret saying that we don't carry that size, but we have these two sizes. are like, cool, I'll be okay with like, size greater because the sizes in India versus size in North America runs differently. After that, they sent me an email with photos of two gloves. These are the two gloves. This is a summer riding glove and this is a winter riding glove. They sent me these two images and they asked me to choose one, to which I said that, hey, I really like the styling of the gloves that I got from India. So can I get the same gloves? To my surprise, they responded back by saying that they don't run these kind of gloves in North America. And at this point, I was kind of getting convinced that I got a soap in an iPhone box, basically. So that was my thought. But anyway, they asked me to choose between the two, so I chose this one, which is a summer riding glove. Even the glove that I got from Royal Enfield India is a summer riding glove. It's just that like the styling of these gloves are really cool. But they then responded back saying that they don't have these gloves in my size. So I was like, okay, then I don't know what to do. Like I guess I'll take this. Like, better get something than nothing, right? And then they asked me my whole address. Then after like about 3 weeks, I got a parcel delivery from Royal Enfield. I was excited that I'll be getting this glove. To my surprise, they sent me both the gloves. One is for summer riding glove and one is for winter. I think they were being mindful of the geography that we are riding in. So since we ride in Canada, we need both summer and winter gloves, and they sent me both, which was really great. The winter gloves were in my size, but not the summer gloves. I have used them extensively for a whole season and they have lasted me pretty well. Even the brand name and the model name has washed off now because of extensive use. But if somebody's interested, this is called the Windstorm glove by Royal Enfield. And the winter glove is still pretty new because I have other winter gloves which I use. So I haven't used this. This is the stout model of the Royal Enfield glove. So this was my experience with Royal Enfield North American team, which was pretty positive and they were pretty good with resolving my issue. The only thing, if I really have to nitpick, was I had to follow up with them a lot more than I had to follow up with the Indian Royal Enfield customer service. So I reminded them 2-3 times. And I thought that they could have asked me all the questions in one go, but they kept asking me questions in piecemeal. Now, in both the teams, I noticed one thing, that I used an email address to write to them, which was not by my name. But I had signed these emails with my name. Every alternate email they wrote back to was to the email address instead of my name. And I was like, guys, read the email. I am not my email. I am this person who has signed off. So, but it's a small thing, but I noticed that both the teams did the same thing. Now, here's my assumption or speculation of why the two teams handle the case differently. Now, I think the answer lies in the market demand and the volume. So, since Royal Enfield India is the headquarters and the biggest market for Royal Enfield in the world, I think, and next being maybe Europe or even other countries in Asia, I think they focus more on timely response than a resolution to queries that hit their inbox. So imagine, like, since I've been in India and Canada, I think I have a fair idea about how customer service may work in India versus how it may work in North America. So I'm basing my assumption or speculation based on that. Since it's a huge market and the amount of emails that they get on a daily basis is huge, what they do is it's a system where any person, any customer service representative who is free will attend to the next email that hits the inbox. So that's why there were different people attending to my question each time. Also, I noticed that most of the times they responded with a scripted email or reply. It felt less human, it felt more machiney or more scripted. I think that's also because they have a defined process how to deal with these kind of questions and try and get the resolution. So just imagine the manufacturing is done in Chennai, Royal Enfield. This service team, maybe of 40 people, is either in the same location or a totally different province. So Chennai is the manufacturing, the service center, or the service agent set in Bangalore in a building or something like that. So to resolve this issue by offering a refund or a replacement, they would have to go through certain steps of approval and processes to get that done. That's what they would have done that if I claimed warranty and I filled in the form and I was in a position to provide them with the gloves, which was not possible. So they went with the standard response. Whereas in Royal Enfield North America, I imagine it to be a much smaller market for Royal Enfield and thus a smaller team. So I imagine a team of 8 to 10 people sitting in a warehouse somewhere where most of the team comprises of either sales and service and maybe one person handling your admin, accounts, customer service responses and all that thing. So when this hit their inbox, this person just reached out to, like, the lead in the same vicinity, asked them that this is what is happening, what should I do? Or maybe it's just an email exchange and they just said offer a refund because it's under a certain amount range. So these gloves cost around 100 Canadian dollars. As I said, like in Indian rupees, it was 6 to 7,000. So it's about 100 Canadian dollars. So if it's under a certain range, they could offer um, replacement. And that's why they were able to send me two gloves, because they focused more on winning the customer back rather than letting upset customer live with a faulty glove. So the thing is, the volume is the biggest game changer in both. Another thing that I mentioned in one of the videos, the gloves made in Royal Enfield India were from Bangladesh, whereas the gloves from Royal Enfield North America were made in Indonesia. So that could also be one of the reasons that these are way better compared to the gloves from India. So this was my experience, but how Royal Enfield India could have handled this case better, this is just my suggestion, what I'm going to tell. I don't know anything about the process, but this is my suggestion. I'm not here just crying about a faulty glove or praising the team, but also suggesting how they could improve their process. So when I reached out to Royal Enfield India about these gloves, they could have done two things. They could either have absorbed the cost of a replacement, which would mean cost of the gloves and also shipping a brand new glove to me here in Canada. And if they wanted, they could all, if they really cared about doing a QC on these gloves, they could have easily also paid for shipping to get the gloves back in their lab to do the testing. Or what they could have done is they could have passed over this case from Royal Enfield India to Royal Enfield North America and asked them to handle it, and they would have balanced the books on their end because the brand is the same, just two different localities. So this is how they could have handled the situation, in my opinion. But what do I know? I'm just a guy with a red hat sitting here in his home in North America. Yeah, so that was my whole ordeal with Royal Enfield. They miffed a customer, or they miffed a fan, but ultimately they got me back. I am going to praise them, credit where credit is due. But if you know someone who has had a similar experience with Royal Enfield or any other brand, maybe passing this along to them might help them get a resolution, not just with Royal Enfield or with any other brand. Or if you have had a similar experience and have not gotten a resolution, maybe write it down, let others to know that this is what their experience has been. But this is just a video in public interest. I do not guarantee any kind of resolution. I'm just making a suggestion that this was my experience. Maybe it will help somebody who may be in need. In the end, Royal Enfield up, but got a fan back and hard.